If you've struggled with stress, balance, or burnout, and simply feel discouraged or even defeated, and if you're ready to move from force to flow and enjoy ultimate Zen success in your career, health, or relationships, then the Zen Success Show is for you. Your host, Carissa Sims, is an entrepreneur, corporate consultant, best-selling author, meditation teacher, and healer who has found her own Zen success. Here's your host, Carissa Sims.
Welcome to this week's episode of Zen Success. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Anne Smith. Hi, Anne.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, where are you connecting from today?
I'm in San Antonio, Texas, which is normally very sunny, but we're getting a lot of much needed rain right now.
Oh, wonderful. It's a blessing, right? When we have
Absolutely.
the rain. Well, let me share more about Anne. Anne Smith is a corporate trainer and a human resources professional. I'm sorry, let me start again. Um, Anne Smith is a corporate trainer and a human resources professional with nearly 3 decades of experience. Putting aside her fear of the risks associated with later in life divorce, she took a leap of faith, ended a nearly 30-year marriage, and prioritized her own happiness. Her debut book, Gray Divorce: My Life Rewritten, follows her journey of self-exploration as she found happiness within. So happy to be with you. And would you share about your book, Gray Divorce, Your Life Rewritten, and what inspired you to write it?
Well, it didn't start out as a book. It started out as a lot of reflective journaling on my journey through this whole decision-making process. And once I made the decision and separated and ultimately filed for divorce, I continued to journal. I'm a writer anyway and had abandoned journaling for some time. So it got me back into that. And I kept journaling as I was doing a year of therapy. And one day I was preparing for a call with my wonderful therapist, and I had gone back through and was looking at some notes so I could prepare for that. And I thought, there's so many people that are in similar situations, and maybe if I shared my story, it might help some people. And that was really the goal, is just getting the word out there, because there are a lot of people that are in this gray divorce phenomenon.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, let's get into your journey a little bit. So, you were married, like we said in the bio, 30 years. And
Yeah.
what motivated you to leave your marriage? Were there signs for a long time?
There were. I think that what we often do is we just get on that treadmill and we, keep our head down and stay focused on living life and raising the kids and growing our careers and all of those things. And we don't necessarily pay attention to the signs that are there. If we do happen to notice some, we think, oh, that's not real, or I don't have time for this. And,
Oh,
you continue to stay focused. So some of it was, in the moment, really where I started to see the big cracks in the relationship was my ex-husband had had a career and retired from it, but was still young enough to continue to work. And our goal at that point had been to move to the West Coast and get out of the Texas heat and enjoy a more moderate climate. And so we made that happen in 2018. And when we got to our destination, I really started seeing a lot of just complete disengagement from life. There was no desire to explore a new area and start the next phase of our lives together. And so it was over a period of months that I really started paying attention to I don't want to sit outside and look at the beautiful view. I don't want to go explore the new areas. I just want to sit in front of the TV and veg and not do anything. So I really started to question at that point, is this it? I don't want to live like this. I want us to have a really good next chapter in our lives. So that was really where I started to pay attention to some of the signs that I had been ignoring.
I see. So was he retired at that time?
He was looking for another position. He had retired from one career and was going to
Oh,
start
got
another
it.
career. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah.
Got it. Interesting. So, had you seen some of those signs throughout your marriage, or was it just more highlighted because he didn't have a job at the time?
There were definitely things that I had ignored down through the years. Some of the people that I speak with, I think for the most part, there's not always an equitable split with responsibilities at home. And so I was one of many people who felt that, but there just wasn't any effort at all. I was the one that did absolutely everything. And when we were getting ready for the move, there was no effort to help. I mean, I was working full time. I was painting the whole inside of the house. I was sorting through things and getting rid of things. And there just was no effort. I was doing all of it, lining up movers across the US and all of that stuff. So it had been a pattern for some time that there
Mhm.
was really no contribution to the marriage. We also had kind of gotten to that phase where we were just roommates. There was no physical intimacy and hadn't
Mm.
been for quite some time. It just was, we kind of passed each other and talked about things like what's for dinner and is the water bill been paid and have you filled up the car with gas? And that was it. That was really the extent of our relationship.
Oh, yeah. So it was more transactional. And do you have, I'm sorry, did you have children and how old were they at the time, or did they already leave the home?
Yeah, our kids were both grown and gone. So I had a son from my first marriage and he had a daughter from his first marriage, but they were grown and gone. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So they were with you for a little bit of your marriage.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Big chunk of the marriage. Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. So this was both of your second marriage.
It
I mean,
was.
yeah.
Yes. I had gotten married very young. I got married right out of high school and had no idea. Thought I had life figured out at 18, like most 18-year-olds
Ah,
do, and had no idea what I had gotten myself in for. So that marriage lasted 9 years. And then I
not
was
bad
single.
though, not bad.
Yeah, yeah. Single for a couple of years before I remarried, and then that marriage lasted for 29 years. We were together for a year before we got married, so 30 years total in that relationship, which represented half of my life. When I made the decision to separate and get divorced, I was 60. So it was literally half of my life that
Yes.
I was closing the door on.
Yes. Yeah, that is intense. And did you feel that your divorce was an awakening, or was there a spiritual process that you went through once you started to realize and see these signs that maybe you weren't in alignment or you were doing everything? To me, it almost sounds like a little bit of numb, like he was feeling numb or depressed or something.
Yeah, yeah. There had been a lot of numbing on my part as well. That kind of what I was referring to at the beginning. You just kind of get on the treadmill and make things
Hmm.
happen, and you don't really pay attention. And you're exactly right. It was an awakening. I started to ask when I started to ask myself, is this it? Is this everything? Is this, I have way more time behind me than I do in front of me left on this earth. Is this going to be my best chapter of my life? And what I realized as I started asking myself some of those hard questions is that I didn't even know what my own values were. And so how could I possibly be living in alignment with them? I didn't know what they were. Having been in the corporate world for so many years, companies have a mission, vision, and values and we don't often think about having values for ourselves. And it's such an important thing to understand, what do we stand for? What's the most important thing to us? And I started to realize that I had completely lost my identity. I didn't know who I was anymore. And where I started to really feel it, I felt like I was being erased, like a stick figure drawn on a chalkboard, and somebody was just slowly erasing line by line. I had lost myself, I had lost my way, and that was very sobering to recognize that.
Mm. Interesting. And what were some of the processes that you felt like they were important to look into, like your belief systems or behaviors, to help yourself just in relationships?
Absolutely. So the first thing that I did was I was very torn, as most people are, to make a decision like this. It's so life-changing and has, financial repercussions and all of that. You have a lot more time to make up for divorce in your 30s or even 40s than you do at 60 when you're looking at retirement and all of that. So there was the financial aspect. So I started really looking for some help in making that decision. What did I really need to do? And although I did look for a therapist at that point, I got connected with somebody and it just was not a good match. And sometimes that happens. And I stumbled across a course through Daily Ohm, and it was really an absolute godsend for me at that point. It was called Separating with Grace and Respect. It's not out there anymore. The course owner was Regina Michaels, and she does still have a website, but I don't see that course available. It was what helped me walk through that whole process and answer a lot of questions, face a lot of reality for myself. And then when I started working with a therapist, my goal at that point was to hold the mirror up. I
Mm.
said, okay, this is divorce number two. The first one was not your choice. The second one was, but you are the common denominator in both marriages. So what do you need to learn about yourself so that you don't make the same mistakes in the future? What is it that has influenced the way you've lived your life, the choices that you've made, the choices that you've made in life partners, all of those things? That was really my goal in finding out what made me tick, what were the influences in my life. And with the help of an amazing therapist, I really did learn a tremendous amount about myself. It was the best money ever spent that year to really uncover a lot of things. What we don't often understand is that we have embedded belief systems that become part of our DNA, and we don't even recognize that they're there. And they can have a tremendous influence on the way we live our lives.
Yes. So what were your some foundational childhood belief systems that you uncovered with the help of your therapist that spotlighted what you needed to heal?
Now, one of them was that I had no value unless someone else said I had value. Now, that sounds harsh. I didn't have a terrible childhood by any means, but I was shown by role modeling through my mother that the best way to love someone was to completely sacrifice everything you wanted and completely go for, with whatever that other person wanted. You didn't have any needs or wants. You were there to make someone else happy. And so that embedded that belief that in order for me to have value, I needed other people to see value in me. I needed them to validate my existence. And the other thing I think is a little bit more common, we don't, as a society, do anybody any favors when we teach our children and our teenagers that one day you will find your other half. We are not half people. We are a whole individual by ourselves. We will find someone that we can partner with in life, but we are not half a person. We need to recognize that we are whole, we stand on our own, and we do have value. We bring a lot of different things to the table. We are unique creatures. And so those were two of the beliefs that really influenced heavily who I got involved with. I needed someone to validate my existence. I needed to feel like I was sacrificing everything for that other person. And you don't draw the best people to you when you do that.
Interesting. Yeah, no, it's really deep and profound to have uncover these beliefs and see how it influences your choices in partners.
Absolutely.
So, what about psychometric tools? Would you share some of those that you found along with your therapist that help others improve their relationships?
So the psychometric tools are tools that I've used within the workforce. And there's different ones. There's a lot of people are familiar with Myers-Briggs. There's Insights, there's DISC. And really what they get to is Myers-Briggs is a little bit more personality related. The others are really more about how you communicate and the impact that your communication has on other people. What they really tie to, though, in common below that is the way you are, the makeup of who you are as an individual. So we have certain preferences that we may not be aware of that influence how we communicate, how we react to stress, how we react to change, all of those things. And I love facilitating those conversations at work, and I've done it for a number of years and feel very strong. Like that's a very strong skill that I have. And interestingly enough, I was not the one that was speaking up at home. I was like a completely different person at work versus at home. Again, going back to you don't rock the boat, you keep the peace, you do everything to make the other person happy. So it was a very interesting dynamic to see the difference because I knew better. I knew better and I knew a lot about that, but I was not communicating at all. I was holding back. And what happens to us as we hold back is we start to resent the other person. We feel that we can't communicate because we're not. And instead of owning that, we begin to resent the situation and ultimately resent the other person. And resentment can turn to contempt. And contempt is a very difficult place to come back from. And that's where I found myself. I found myself in that space of feeling contempt. And I just wasn't willing to do it anymore.
And so yes, that makes sense. And I'm divorced too, by the way.
Yeah.
And it'll be 2 years in May. And I'm wondering when you came to your ex, what was his response and what did you say?
So I agonized over that. I spent so much time. It's one of the things that I talk about in my book is I look back on my journal entries and I realized that I was pouring every bit of energy and thought into how do I craft this message so that he reacts as well as possible to it and giving no consideration to how I was feeling and what I needed. Still very much in that camp of give, give, give everything. And I was very worried about how he was going to take it. It took me a while, even after I made the decision, to work up the courage to have the conversation. And when I finally did, it was very anticlimactic. I said what I said very briefly, and it was okay. And that was it.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious.
I know.
That is like 10 times confirmation.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was not at all what I expected.
I
Not at
wasn't
all what I
expecting that
expected.
either. I didn't get that reaction from my ex. I mean, we tried to do counseling. We went through a whole process and everything.
Yeah,
So it was definitely a more push and pull. So that's
yeah,
really interesting. And and then did you have your little girl inside your heart go, "Yay!"
yes. I felt such relief. I just can't even, and even getting to the point where I was talking to people about it. This
Yeah.
this is something else that was very interesting because another thing that I learned as I was growing up was that you had to have this perfect persona. You needed to project that your life was under control and that everything was great all the time and regardless of what was going on. And so I had been struggling with this for years. And when I finally spoke to a couple of very good friends who knew my ex, had been around him for years, uh, I was fascinated to hear responses that were like, oh, we've known for years that it hasn't been good, but you haven't said anything. And so we just figured you were okay with it. It was like, and here I thought that I had this perfect persona,
Persona.
this facade going on.
That's so
So there was a huge,
interesting. Yeah,
pardon.
that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there was just huge relief just with having that conversation and getting it out that this is what I'm thinking about. I'm very torn. I don't know what to do. And so I felt relief. And yes, when I had that conversation with him, I felt I was nervous. I was scared. There was a little bit of the what the heck did I just do kind of thing, but I knew in my heart it was the right choice. And I felt this tremendous sense of relief, like finally I can move on with my life and make it what I want to make it.
Mm.
I was just responsible for myself at that point.
Yeah, yeah, that's so beautiful. And it's interesting what you were saying about your friends that knew him and knew both of you. And they were saying, oh, we knew something was wrong, but you never said anything. Because
Yeah.
I had a similar experience with a friend of mine who is in the process of going through a divorce, separated, they're in mediation. And the same thing, I always thought like, why are you guys together?
Yeah.
And and then and then she never told me anything. She never told me
Mhm.
there was any problems. It all came out after the fact. So I think there is that, I don't know, that factor of embarrassment or, like you said, having this persona of having a perfect life, perfect
Yeah.
marriage, and everything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It doesn't work. We're only fooling ourselves, and that's not a good place to be either.
yeah. And then I was like, oh, I guess I wasn't just seeing things. And I'm like, am I
Yeah.
seeing things? So it's like interesting to have this like conversation with yourself of trusting your intuition. Are
Yeah.
you in a relationship now? Or do you have a romantic relationship?
Yes, I actually got remarried in October.
Oh,
Yes.
amazing.
Yes. And but I did so much work because had I was happy for the first time in so many years. I loved that I was independent and on my own and I didn't have anybody else to take care of but me. I had my house that I had purchased on my own. I had redone it the way I wanted it. It was truly my haven and I felt so happy and so comfortable with my life. It
Yeah.
really wasn't until I started thinking about retiring and wanting to travel. And yes, I could have traveled on my own. I'm a big girl. A lot of people do it, but I wanted to have somebody to share those experiences with.
Yeah.
And so I really had, like I said, I had done a year of therapy to uncover a lot of things. I got extremely clear on who I was as an individual, what I wanted in a relationship, what I wanted in a partner, what were non-negotiables, and got very clear on all of that. And actually took some courses on getting into online dating because that didn't exist 30 something years ago, and I
Oh,
hadn't
wow. You
dated
met
in
him at online dating. Oh my gosh, good for
I
you.
did. Yeah, just because I was living in a small coastal town. I work remotely full time. I'm not a churchgoer. I don't drink, so I don't go to bars. Where was I going to meet somebody, you know? So yeah, I met him online. I thought for sure it was going to take, a couple of years to meet somebody because I'm in my 60s and, life is different now. And he found me. He actually was the one that contacted me. And we were about 3 hours apart, distance wise.
Oh, so it
So
was a significant distance.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it was. And I wasn't really, I, it was interesting because we had some good conversations on the platform.
Uh-huh.
And when I found out where he was, I was like, it's just, I really need to find something closer. I worry about the distance and wish you the best. And he said, thanks, same to you. And the next day, I could not get him out of my head.
Oh,
We
wow.
hadn't even met, but there was just something that was
Yeah.
telling me, knocking on my shoulder, saying, "Hey, we just delivered what you were looking for, and you didn't do anything with it." So I contacted him again, and we started talking. And he is. It is the easiest relationship I have ever been in my life. We are so in sync.
Oh my gosh,
We
that's
have so much
beautiful.
in common. He is just a treasure. He is absolutely a treasure. And he treats me with so much love and so much respect. I wonder what I spent 30 years of my life doing now that I'm in this relationship. So, yeah, we just got married in October, and he has just been such a joy, such a joy. And I'm so looking forward to what we have ahead of us.
Oh, amazing. And was he moving in with you and your house? Or,
Yeah, so I actually sold where I was and came to him.
oh, okay.
He was partly remote, but had to go into the office a couple of days a week, and I was fully remote, so I had more flexibility.
Oh,
So
great.
it made sense for me just to come to where he was. I didn't really have anything holding me where I was. I was fine with it.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was a little bit scary, kind of stepping off of
Oh,
that, and
yeah.
but
Jumping
it's
off the
it's just
diving board.
yeah,
And
yeah.
would you share a little bit about your process of gaining clarity of what you wanted? Did you write down? Did you visualize? What were some of the things that you did?
Absolutely. I did a lot of hard questions like, what truth am I hiding from? Who am I? What the choices that I've made, why have I made those choices? So I really got very intense with a lot of the questions that I asked. I started to understand the role that my beliefs had played in who I had become and completely distanced myself from that so that I could learn to value myself. I had not valued myself ever in my life. And so those were very important things, getting very clear on my values. There's so many things that you can do online to help you identify what your values are. And I highly recommend you do, just find something that resonates with you and go through those exercises because it really does help tremendously. And then when I started thinking about relationships, I had two really good, clear experiences of what I did not want in my life, and what I did want became that much clearer. And when you value yourself and you respect yourself and you love yourself, it gets much easier to say, no, you're not right for me. I need to keep looking,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing. It's a very, very good thing. And when you
Yeah.
come from it from the opposite perspective of who's going to love me, very different world,
Yeah,
right?
it's really inspiring, empowering. Yeah, it gives you
Absolutely.
your power. Okay, so are you still working in human
I
resources?
am.
You
Yes, I am
are.
still working. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. And
Still
then do
working full
you,
time.
wow, full time. That's
Yeah.
incredible. And I mean, it's kind of nice to, I think, to work remotely as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, so do you do anything in this space? Like, are you doing public speaking or workshops about relationships? Are you helping others?
It's definitely the direction that I'm wanting to go. I'm starting to get to that point where I'd like to phase down a little bit with working full time, hopefully, eventually going part time. And I'd love to have the opportunity to do some public speaking. That's the direction that I'd like to go in. When I wrote the book, I had done so much research. It was when I was researching getting divorced later in life that I first stumbled upon the term gray divorce, and I started realizing how many people we're talking about that are in this same situation. And I since I'm a trainer, a corporate trainer, I'm comfortable talking to people and groups. And so to me, it just makes sense to be able to share my story and talk to people, women and men. I think there are men in the same situation where they feel like they're stuck and they don't know what to do, and they're afraid to make the change. So yeah, I'd love to have that opportunity.
Well, that sounds exciting. And is there anything next for you? So you have your book. Are you being interviewed more on podcasts? What is your vision for this?
Yes, so I have been fortunate to have been invited to do a number of podcasts. I've got a few more that are scheduled. And my goal also, once we get moved, we're in the process of moving. Once we get moved, my goal is to start doing, maybe some visits at bookstores and speaking there, and getting the word out a little bit more about my book, and to see where I can be of service to other people. And getting back to writing, I'm ready to write again. There's so much that goes into launching a book, but I'm ready to get back to writing because that's really something that I'm very passionate about.
Oh, exciting. What kind of topics are bubbling up in you for
This is
writing?
actually the first nonfiction that I've written. I've written a couple of fiction books, although I'm not published.
Oh, okay.
And so this is the first
Amazing.
published work. But yeah, so I've got some fiction books that are rolling around in my head, but I really fell in love with the art of memoir. And so I'm thinking about trying to do something else kind of still in this space, like, the next chapter, what happens when you begin again with
Oh,
someone,
I love it.
and
Yes.
things to look forward to. And there's still a lot of lessons. There's still an incredible amount of life lessons to learn. We just have to be open to them. So something along those lines.
Oh, that sounds exciting. Well, what is Zen success to you?
Zen success. You know, one of my values that I identified was to protect my peace at all costs. And when you are in a Zen space, you are doing exactly that. You are protecting your peace. And so what Zen success means to me is staying true to who you are, staying true to your values, and being at peace with your life and with yourself.
Oh, I think that sounds wonderful. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you, hearing about your book, Gray Divorce, My Life Rewritten, and also hearing about your exciting new marriage. I'll put your website and how to order your book in the show notes. So thanks for being on the Zen Success Show, Anne.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a real pleasure speaking with you.
That's it for today's episode of Zen Success. Head on over to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show and share with friends. Be sure to head on over to ZenSuccessShow.com to help you on your Zen success journey. And join us on the next episode. May you find your own Zen success in life.